Shalom, today is October 14th. It is 374 days into the war in Israel. We're going to read about the disaster that happened yesterday in one of the military bases. We'll read about what is Israel doing with these unmanned aerial vehicles that is a threat to Israel, and they're hard to find under the radar. And the jungle of terror that's being found in Hezbollah in Lebanon. Here we go. Hapitzutz babasis, the explosion in the military base. Ason means disaster. Ason hakatbam. Katbam is the Hebrew abbreviation of the unmanned aerial vehicle. Around 70 soldiers wounded from the hit near Binyamina, central Israel, and 4 of them are in critical condition. Here is a bloody floor in the military base. We'll read more about this inside, and we'll hear from eyewitnesses what they felt and experienced. And down here, Betoch Jungle HaTeror, within the jungle of terror of Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, you'll be surprised what we found in southern Lebanon. Way more than what Israel found in Gaza. Israel b'milchama, Israel at war. Ason belev haaretz, disaster in the center, in the heart of Israel, the heart of the country. Kli tai shel Hezbollah, an unmanned aerial vehicle of Hezbollah, infiltrated the aerial defense system of Israel and attacked a military base. So this is one of the most serious events and tragedies that happened since the attacks with Lebanon happened in full scale a few weeks ago. So since the maneuver and the ground maneuver with Lebanon, this is the most serious incident where it says here dozens of soldiers were injured from the hit of the Katbam, the unmanned aerial vehicle, Bebasis, in the base, military base near Binyamina. In the photographs, we see here an ambulance evacuating some of the injured soldiers in Binyamina. Rambam Hospital is one of the major hospitals in Israel, and Sheba Hospital. Some of the injured were evacuated by helicopters because their situation was so critical, and it is still very critical. So we see here 70 were evacuated to the hospital. 4 are critically in a critical condition still, and 9 were severely or seriously injured. Most of the injured ones are suffering from ptziot resisim, from injuries from shrapnel, and ptziot hedef. Hedef means the backlash of the explosion. What happened is this: Hezbollah launches 2 unmanned aerial vehicles through the sea into Israel. This is while it's launching a barrage of rockets into northern Israel, setting off the radars. But these 2 unmanned aerial vehicles through the sea one of them was intercepted, and the other one was out of the radar. It probably dove down into the lower altitude of the aerial defense system, so it's like lower, and the radar is not noticing it, and it comes into central Israel, explodes, shoots off a missile into the base, and then explodes in itself. There was no siren, so that's how so many soldiers were injured, because usually a siren alerts everybody to run into safe rooms, and this time there was no siren as the radar did not notice it. So Israel is still struggling. A year already has passed since the beginning of the war, but it's still struggling with these unmanned aerial vehicles as they're smaller, they're cheap to operate by Hezbollah, but they're smaller and they're harder to dictate, and they can fly in very low altitudes under the radar. So one of the fathers, a worried father of a soldier that serves in this military base, said that it was crazy what went there. My son called me and said there was no siren, no alert, and then suddenly an enormous boom and lots of yelling. And an eyewitness said there was a crazy boom, a very large boom. Something entered from the ceiling suddenly. We all ran to safe rooms, and I saw a lot of people injured and covered with blood. They carried them on stretches. Some of them had to have first aid right then and there. So this is a very serious incident, and Israel is still trying to manage this threat of these little and deadly unmanned aerial vehicles from Hezbollah. And here on the left, there's an opinion article about this vehicle. It says it is hard to identify, it's hard to follow, it's hard to notice. The IDF and the other the security industries are trying to find a solution to this deadly machine, and we don't have the perfect solution quite yet. Here's an article about these unmanned aerial vehicles. Again, in Hebrew, we call it katbam. This explains about the challenges and the optional solutions. It flies under the aerial defense of the IDF. By the way, 300 of these vehicles came from Yemen. They were all intercepted. 170 of them came from Iran, and they were all intercepted, so they can fly for a very, very long range. They can carry quite a bit of explosives. We're not speaking here of dozens of kilos, but still quite a bit. And they're cheap to operate. They require no pilot in them, so they're very worthwhile for the enemy to use. They really act as a cruise missile that can navigate itself to a specific, very accurate target. Since 7th of October, Hezbollah on its own released or launched more than 2,000 of these vehicles. Next, to the next headline, this is the US military helping Israel. They're calling it here, Machpil HaKoach, the power multiplier to Israel and the threat over America. So in the Pentagon, they agreed and they approved that the aerial defense called a THAAD will arrive to Israel, and it will be operated by US military troops on Israeli land. Tehran in Iran says the US, with doing this, is endangering her own people's lives. So this is really showing that, how much US is committed to defending and protecting Israel these days. The THAAD defense system is one of the US military's most powerful anti-missile weapons. It is capable of intercepting long-range missiles even out of the atmosphere with a near perfect success rate. One of those prized batteries of the US military is now being dispatched to Israel to help bolster its already impressive ability to counter incoming missiles following Iran's unprecedented attacks against Israel in April and in October. The former commander of the Israeli defense system in Israel says that this shows Iran how strong the commitment of the US military or the US government is with us, as they stand strong with us strategically and also practically. The fact that the US will be able to launch their defense systems from Israeli land against Iran to protect Israel means just very, very significant and powerful. Next, Basvach Hezbollah. Svach means the thicket of Hezbollah, but it also means the tangle of Hezbollah. So there's a little play on words here. As the IDF is deepening their ground maneuver into Lebanon a little bit deeper, the failure is exposed, the failure to identify prior this land maneuver, to identify how large and significant and terrible was Hezbollah's preparation to attack Israel through tunnels, exactly like Hamas did, but way worse. So they said, we knew that Hezbollah has different tunnels and infrastructure here and preparations, but we didn't know the degree of it. So this is one of the reasons Israel is sending their troops by foot to find these tunnels that are well hidden like this. Musveh heitev, it's camouflaged well. And they have all the equipment they need for so many soldiers, Hezbollah soldiers, with very well, very well equipped, with very standard and well-working ammunition and weapons. And it says here, chipus yesodi, thorough look. You cannot do this with fighter jets or something from the air. You need to do it on ground. And they're saying here, we are scanning here every meter. And this just shows the danger that Israel was even in the north. And 7th of October is allowing our thorough search in southern Lebanon as Hezbollah was completely ready and continuing to prepare for an attack, a very strong attack against Israel through the tunnels. Still, we read Israel b'milchama on every page here. Israel's at war. We are praying that Omer will come back until his next Hebrew date, birthday. Okay, this is Omer that's in hostage with 100 and other dead and alive hostages in Gaza still since October 7th. Omer turned 24 years old in hostage yesterday, and they marked his birthday yesterday in New York and in a few other places. Sorry, it's his 23rd birthday, but it is his second birthday in captivity. And here he is when he's 3 years old, and here he is when he's 7 years old, and here he is in the poster being a hostage. And every one of these 101 hostages has a whole family behind them, family and friends, ultimately a country worried about them. 101 families. And something good to end with. It reads here, Maka kala bakanaf, a light hit in the wing, not a jet wing, but a pelican, a young pelican's wing. And it reads in the subtitle, Israeli soldiers that are ready to fight in the northern part of Israel are ready for every incident, but they were not ready for this kind of rescue operation. An IDF force found this young pelican with a shooting injury in its wing on the Lebanese-Israeli border, and they took the pelican to care. And after recovery, it was a not complicated procedure, but after recovery, they released it again into the wild. The pelican is one of the largest, it is the largest birds in Israel. It's one of the largest ones that can travel all over the world. And Israel has many of them up in the northern area. And here we see an x-ray of the broken wing. This is it for today. Thank you for standing with Israel and praying for us. Your continued prayers mean a lot to us, and your comments are very, very encouraging. For more stories, go to allisrael.com. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends. This is Rotam again for All Israel News.